Welcome to The Decision from Nashville EO, where you will hear the rest of the story after tough decisions were made by entrepreneurs who faced adversity and lived to tell about it.
Hi, I'm Robert Hartline, co-host with Eric Jackson with the Nashville Entrepreneur Organization podcast, The Decision. The Decision is the podcast built for entrepreneurs who are in a struggle with a decision for their business or their personal life, where they're going to their forum mates to ask for help with some experience here on what could be done to help them finally make the decision. I'm here today with our special guest, Mose Ramieh. How are you doing today?
I'm very well. Thank you very much for asking. Well. Great to be here. You guys are quite the legend, and I'm looking forward to this.
So tell us, how long have you been in EO?
Gosh, I've been in EO when you had to be under 40 to join. What's that been? 16 years now, I guess. They're going on 16 years. So,
Tell us about Mose before EO. What was it like that moment you were considering EO? What was that
question?
What was that EO member like?
Because we've been in forum together this whole time.
The whole time. I mean, I met Eric at forum training. And yeah, that's a dicey question. What was Mose like? I think Hunter Ingram in my forum says it best. Mose was a very angry person. He was dealing with he still does. He does a lot better job these days, thanks to forum. But dealing with a lot of pressure of the business, working in a family business, raising two young boys, lots of things. It's hard to remember all of that going back these days, but it was difficult for me before forum, and forum pretty quickly helped me see that there were better ways for me to do things.
Oh wow! Like what? What would you say? What would be the key contrast between these two people?
I think the key contrast was perspective. Right. Just understanding that, one, I had a support team now. Right. Mm-hmm. And that I could come in and share what was bothering me. And I think this is one of the important things that and I don't know if it's the right time for me to share this, but one of the important things about doing a presentation or having a group that you can sit and share an experience with, whether it's a presentation or not, is just when you verbalize something, when you talk about it out loud, not in your head, but out loud, you really verbalize it, it all of a sudden becomes much more clear and much more manageable. And it loses a lot of its power, I think, over the individual, over me personally, because once again, if you're just thinking about it in your head, you don't process it the same as when you say it out loud and you hear it. Now, the feedback's great, right? And you get good questions that make you go, well, I didn't see it that way before. Now that let me ponder it that way, right? So just that ability to kind of share the frustrations of being a business owner, about having employees that make mistakes, or the struggle to make payroll, and of course in my business, the mistakes were one very concerning about people could be injured, significant cost.
What was your business?
So the company was called Power and Generation Testing, and we did electrical maintenance and testing primarily for folks that needed a high level of safety and reliability in their power system. So predominantly we worked with large industrial manufacturing back in those days. To the business we have today, we're looking for more data center work, but like I say, lots of automotive here in Middle Tennessee, lots of hospital work, universities, some of the larger universities here locally.
You mentioned family business. What made it? What was it? Tell me about the...
Briefly, my father started the business in January of 1997. And at my wedding in November of 96, he said, hey, I'm going to start my own business. And after I got out of the Navy, he's like, why don't you come join me? And so in August of 97, or was that about 8 months later, I joined him in growing this electrical maintenance and testing company. So I was basically there from the beginning, more or less. And but I had to learn a whole lot over the course of the next, I guess, been this going on 26 years now. So,
a lot of people, involve family in business. Did your relationship change with your father, working with him?
Yeah. I mean, the short answer is yes. It did change. I mean, he was not the easiest guy to grow up with, right? Mm-hmm. And but to work with him was good. He was a good teacher. He was very hands-on and very involved. He was the classic E-Myth entrepreneur. He was a technician that said, F you, I can do this on my own. And he went and started the business. That's what we talked about when he was at my wedding. And so it was different to work with him. Because like I said, I got to see a different side. I got to see the side that people respected. I always heard what a great guy my dad was, right? Oh, you're great. He's so smart. He's so hard work, just all the things, right? But the guy was like hard ass, right? And so it was hard for me to really understand that. And I don't know if I can share this story so well, but we had been working together for many, many years at this point, 4, 5, 6 years. And of course, that's all I heard. That's, my dad's so great. And I was standing out in the back of our shop. We had a little warehouse out back behind our office. And I was just talking with one of our technicians, and the door flies open to the warehouse. He comes in there just ranting and raving and just screaming about something. I forget. I don't even remember what it was about. And then he just turns around and walks out, closes, slams the door behind him. And I turned to my technician friend and I said, that was my dad.
He showed up today.
He showed up. Yes, he did. He didn't show up very often, but that day he showed up. It was crazy. That was a crazy one.
And when you're looking back at that, as an entrepreneur, when you've been there, have you been your dad in those scenarios?
Oh, I mean, I think that's part of what I carried into the business was, kind of that how I remember my father being, right. So I carried it in there, and it took a lot of time to grow out of that. Yeah. And he grew out of it too. I mean, I think that's important to remember. He grew out of it as well. It wasn't like a light switch. I mean, he evolved, he changed, because there was a lot of years from living in his house to me going off to the Navy, living in San Diego, being separated. In fact, I finished 4 years of college with them in Nashville and me in Austin, Texas. So, I was apart from them for a while, and I think it's amazing how these stories come up. I think part of what changed my father is one of my brothers. Which one was it? It was Tony. Wrapped a car around a tree on his way back. My parents had a house on Old Hickory Lake, and it's a windy road to get back to their house. And came around a curve too fast, slammed into a tree, and they both walked away. And I think that was the moment where he began to change and realize that life's too short to be upset about everything.
Wow. Yeah. Wait, do you think your dad at the time was looking for, did he just need some help in the business, or did he wanted to be around you more, or what do you think the desire to have you there?
That's a great question. I should ask him that when I talk to him later this week. I'm going to speculate and say that, he saw the fact that I'd had this, Navy, I was coming out of the Navy with a steam plant engineering experience, and that, he saw an opportunity for us to build something together.
Yeah, that's great.
And that I had the attitude and aptitude that would make a good, at that point, an employee, right? I had to learn and prove myself before I finally became we got the opportunity to buy into the business later.
And was it, did you bring some of the family challenges into Forum?
I'm sure I did. I think my dad, by and large, we got along pretty well.
That's good.
In the business. I think our biggest challenges were that we didn't have a good delineation of roles. So we would try and, do the same thing, but, he wanted it done. His way was slightly different or slightly better than my way or whatever. Right. And so I think we would step on each other's toes and duplicate efforts sometimes. And of course that was frustrating for the employees, because they're like, well, do I listen to him or do I listen to him? Why are they both? So we had some of those challenges for sure when it came to the business.
So speaking specifically of Forum, and was there any decisions that you brought to as a deep dive, as they call it today, not a presentation, but that you brought to your Forum because I know you've sold the business since, that you most remember?
It's there are probably a few that I remember. One was when it came time to quit after we sold the business. One of the ones I remember is once again, what was I going to do if I quit? Because I after 3 years after we sold the business, I had, it's probably 6 months after I sold the business, I had enough.
Yeah.
But
you're working for the acquirer at the time?
We worked for the acquirer.
How was that experience going from owning to now working for someone else?
It was rough.
It was rough because Mose liked to work for himself, or
it was fine at first. I actually was very excited to sell the business. My father and I couldn't come to terms on the value of the business.
Oh, he disagreed with the value?
Yeah, of course. It was his baby, right?
Yeah, of course.
It was his baby, and once again, I was a financial buyer, right, not a strategic buyer. So our valuation of the business was different. So basically, we decided to go out and sell the business, and found a great company that acquired us, and I really do mean that. We found a great company, and a guy named Bill McCloy was the owner of CE Power. And he had basically grown a company and sold it to Square D at that time, for like gazillion dollars. And now he had waited out his non-compete or whatever, and then done it again. Oh, this is going to be great to work with this entrepreneur to learn how he's doing it. Now it's the second time he's done it. That's pretty impressive. And so that's how it all started. So it started off really good. Like I was going to learn from Bill, but as many things happened, as soon as that acquisition was done, he was kind of on to the next thing and wasn't as available. And then maybe I didn't reach out as often as I should have. I always take some responsibility.
Of course. And so when you brought this to your forum, were you struggling with the decision to sell, or the manner? Were you looking for guidance on whether to sell or the manner in which to sell it?
I think the sales, and once again, that's going all the way back to 2015. I mean, I think the sell decision was pretty evident. I mean, I'm sure I didn't, and I'm looking at Eric because he's been informed with me. I'm sure there was a presentation around selling and about what Mose needed to get, out of it, and what the pros and the cons were. And ultimately at the end of the day, and I probably wouldn't have admitted this at that time, or maybe I did to forum. I don't recall. But once again, I talk about the financial decision that my father and I couldn't come to terms on, right? He got a lot more money by going with this strategic buyer, and that helped pave the way for his retirement.
Right.
So, he got more money for his retirement. I got less. I mean, I got more money too in the deal, but I didn't get enough to retire on. But I think there was probably some conversations around that, and how there was some feeling, I suppose, of this is a better situation for my father. So let's go this route as opposed to digging my heels in or whatever other crazy conversations I might have played out. Like, well, I could always go start my own company or, whatever. Because I had, at that point, we had transitioned the business to where I had most of the relationships. And that was the thing. That was part of the decision to sell the business. Is that was one of the conversations I know we had, is that every dollar I grew it, he got, 65-7%, and I got 30, right? And so it's like every dollar you're growing the value of this business, it's more, you're growing it for him. We need to do something with this.
Yeah. Were your brothers involved as well?
No. My two brothers were smarter than me, I think, and one became a nurse, worked as a flight nurse. Matter of fact, I think that's what he's doing right now down in Houston, flight nursing, and has traveled the world doing that. And he's doing fantastic. And then my brother Tony is been in the bar and restaurant business in Vegas and running not running casinos, but bar.
So thinking back to your forum experience, and this is kind of good that you guys are both in the same forum. What are some lessons that you would give a brand new EO member, brand new off the boat, lands in a forum? What advice do you have to give?
Wow, we're not supposed to give advice. Brand new forum member. I would say that the number one thing I would say is share with that individual is you don't got to, that you will get more value out of just putting what we call, what I guess is called the 5% and do it every time and be vulnerable and be authentic. I know I was not always authentic early on. You still, you kind of want to guard yourself a little bit. But, and once again, maybe it does take some time, but the quicker the forum, not just the individual, but the quicker the forum can get to that place where you can share things that are really troubling you and be comfortable that you're going to get love and valuable maybe all you get is reassurance. Maybe you find out that you're not alone in the situation because let's face it, we've all gone through things where you think you're the only one dealing with this and you're not. And that's where it never ceases to amaze me when I talk, not just only my forum mates, but anybody, not even anybody in EO, but anybody our lives are rich with stories we just don't really want to share.
You mean forums for me to go brag about how awesome business is doing?
Well, that always seems to be some of those updates, right? My business is so good and I've lost 20 pounds and I've put on some muscle and wife's good. Kids are good, Yeah,
I don't hear that much of that.
No.
I must have been sleeping during that part of the forum.
Yeah. You remember that part?
Yeah.
You don't remember that? You don't remember that season of everything was great for him?
Well, how do you deal with that person that's not giving you the 5% though? How do you break through someone who is giving you those superficial bullshit stories about how great life is, right?
Yeah.
Well, how do we get them to see what is possible if they could start to let go of and just being real?
I think that for me, I guess two quick stories. The first one I'll share is, and this comes from my doing some seed moderating, and I'm sitting there and I'm listening to these updates, and of course they're called 5% now or whatever. But I'm listening to these updates, and it's all like way up here on the surface. It's like this happened and that happened and that. Like there's no meat. There's no. I'm not engaging with you because you're not really sharing what's really important. And I basically was participating, and I'm like, oh, here's my brief. I didn't fully participate, but here's my brief update. And then we finished. And I'm like, okay, how do you guys feel like we did on the 5%? And they're like, well, maybe we did really well. I'm like, well, I didn't. And I'm going to tell you why, because I basically was telling them about how I was having some struggles with my youngest son. I'm like, yeah, we're struggling and we're having some problems right now, and we're going to work through it, right? And that's not the 5%. The 5% was that my son is worrying me to death that he's not come home in 3 days, and his mother is not happy, as you might imagine, and I don't know how to handle it, and that's getting down to the 5%. And it takes somebody to step into that and really go deep before I think people begin to go, oh, it's okay to talk about that and really start to share.
And then like you just did that with me, all of a sudden I'm thinking in my mind, I'm like, oh, is that what fatherhood could be?
Yeah.
Am I looking at me into the future? How would I handle it? How would I sit there with that? And it made me just suddenly pay attention. And a lot of us are sitting around in a room just like kind of here, we're kind of listening, kind of, but sometimes we're not, because we're thinking about 1,000 things. We're thinking about what's going to do after this forum meeting. What am I doing next? Or who am I supposed to call? Or what to do is on my list.
Right.
But when I watch you get emotional, get into that, I'm like, all ears, all on you. And then what I feel that happens when someone unlocks the door, other people come through. Right. Other people start letting go, opening up.
I don't know if you'd agree with this, Mose, but when we started using the forum update, the 5% update, whatever you want to call it, that we use now, it's starting with the emotion that we're feeling, really gets some attention. When you hear a forum mate say, I'm resentful and I'm scared, and there's a story behind that, and you're really starting to pay attention, and those emotions that person is feeling focuses you on the why, which is what we're there to tell, really. But that emotion is kind of the tip of the spear, and it For me, it raises my attention and kind of puts me in the same space. Well, I remember a time when I was resentful or scared or worried.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely makes a difference, right? I mean, it definitely makes a difference when somebody starts off with an emotion that's like, oh, wait a minute, I better be angry. What? I think it does make a difference. I really do. And I like the format.
Yeah,
I do. And the other story I was going to share about making a connection and what I would share with a new person to EO is what I like call the broken glass moment. I guess there were 6 of us when we actually went on retreat. But we went on retreat, our first retreat. And, like your first retreat, we well, not like anyone, but we got out of the country. We went to a place in Mexico and bought rented a big old house. Everybody had a room, and we're all hanging around the pool and getting a little, drunk and having a good time and just cutting up. And then all of a sudden, somebody broke a glass, and it's all over the pool deck, and everybody's like, oh shit. And, everybody kind of grabs their flip flops and tips toes away because it's like 2:00 in the morning or whatever. And nobody's going to clean it up. No one don't want to get anybody with something in their glass in their foot. And what happened next on our retreat was probably 2 hours of reflection, because now instead of cutting up and going crazy by the pool, everybody's sitting around the table, fresh drink, probably still. But somebody asked just like one question, like, hey, what? And I don't remember what the question was, but one person just asked a question and it just went around the table, and it got really deep and learned a lot about our forum just because somebody broke a glass.
It's like that moment it kind of forces everyone to change position, change place, and then kind of reconnect. Kind
of a reset.
Reset.
It was a reset to get you out of that goofy zone that we were in.
Yeah. And so, thinking back of past forum mates that maybe are no longer in forum, why do you think they're not there? What's a reason someone doesn't kind of stick out the experience? And because I just wonder about those people, about not having a group to connect with. Why would someone not stick with it? Do you think?
It's interesting. We've recently had a long conversation in our forum about changes and how we've evolved. And I think that's one of the big takeaways is people change. Their needs change. Their business goals change. Family situation changes. And maybe we grow, I don't want to say we grow past it, but maybe there's that feeling like I'm not bringing value. I'm mailing it in and I'm hurting the group. I can't speak to. I mean, I know that I'm sure there's been a moment or two where I'm like, I don't know if I need it. I will share this. I know every time I go to EMP, I'm in an EMP. That's the Entrepreneurial Master's Program held at the Endicott House in Boston, or just outside of Boston. And I'm in an alumni program now. So I've been in EMPing for 11 years, I think it is. Yeah, it's a 3-year program that I've turned into now 11 years. And I will tell you this, every time I go, I'm like, this is it, done. I'm going to sit here for 3 days. I'm going to learn some stuff, reconnect with some people, and that's it. I'm done. And then there I am Sunday morning with my phone and an email saying, sign up now for $500 for the $500 deposit for next year. And I just can't not hit that sign up button. It just reinvigorates you and it reengages me. Right. And it's just amazing how that happens. Cause like I say, I mean, I could tell you this here today and say, I'm going there with the mindset that this is the last one, I'm done. And I can almost feel that I'm going to be sitting there on Sunday.
And is it you getting a sensation of growth?
It's a sensation of growth. It's connection. I think that's probably, maybe going back to your original question, maybe it's about connection, right? Maybe we begin to lose that connection, and the people that we, that are in our forum, we're just not connected well enough with. I don't think we can connect with everybody in forum the way. How do I? Maybe I need to start over. With 7 other forum mates, I don't know that you can be the best friends with every one of them because they're, whether it's different life situations or just different cultural values. You can have a great culture as a forum, but have like slightly different things and inside of between forum mates.
Mhm.
Like EJ and I, we're tight, and Scott and I, we're good too. But Scott's doing different things, and it's just not the same.
Now, I know, Eric, you most recently had one of those moments in forum where it's kind of a let's have a conversation.
Yeah.
You want to share that?
I think this is okay to share, right? It's my story.
It is your story.
So
actually, it's my story too, because you dropped a bomb on me.
I did.
Cue the theme music.
Yeah. So randomly, text Mose said, "Hey, I'm thinking about leaving forum." And he said, "Well, I think that is going to require a cigar and maybe a drink, and we should talk about this." And so we planned a little time together. Mose came over. I fired up the
Solo
stove.
Product placement.
Not sponsored. In the backyard, and cooked dinner and just started talking. And he, to that what we were talking about earlier, he said, "Well, what emotion comes up when you think about this?" You had to ask that. It took me a minute, and it was resentment. Which was weird to have that come out of my mouth. I didn't really even expect it, but I was thinking, all right, why am I thinking about leaving this forum? And it was, I felt like we weren't what we used to be. That between COVID and other life circumstances, retreats had not been what they used to be. We had, we were breaking some of the forum rules that made the experience less than what it had been.
Yes.
And so it made me think I'm missing out, and I want what I had, and maybe it's not with these guys anymore. And so through that process, got the remarkable out, and Mose and I were making notes, and we did a co-presentation. So when I showed up for a meeting, Mose announced that he's the moderator for one more month. He mentioned that we would be doing a co-presentation, and that got some attention because it had never been done before.
Right.
That we didn't tell what I was going to be presenting on, and so
you also rated forum a 5.
So we rate what personally, how we're doing, family, business, and forum, and I wrote down a 5, and kind of paused and looked around the room when I dropped the 5, and that people started to look at me. 5? And I said, you're going to find out later why I rated it that. And there was one other person in the room that had given it a low score and crossed it out because they didn't want to say anything about that. I won't reveal who that is, obviously, but it could have been any one of us.
Could have been any one of us.
It could have. And so, we recounted the things that were bothering us.
Yeah.
And we pushed to another meeting, the next meeting, to really dig deep and have I don't think we even had any time frame on that. It was one of these existential crisis moments.
We kind of had an open moment where we basically turned it over to everybody in the forum. What was it called? A clearing round?
We did a clearing round.
It's a clearing round exercise. Basically got everybody the opportunity to say what was on their mind, right? Get their beefs out.
To each person.
And once again, whether it was an individual beef, and we had a few of those, there was a little Slack battle earlier in the week that brought some tension into the room. But there was a lot of respect there, right? I mean, don't get me wrong. But then it was amazing. And it took one person to stand up and go, I'll go. I got this.
Yeah. And he brought the heat. We're like, man, how much longer you got, man?
I was waiting for him to get to, the problems in Ukraine or something.
Yeah.
The reality is like we have to have tough conversations. And tough conversations is something I personally have struggled with.
Yeah.
But when I get into it, I let it all out, and I just literally will, go all the way. Cause I'm like, I'm already here. I need to put the ugly all on the table so we can all have a discussion about it.
And this guy went to the hilt. I mean,
Well, I mean, and once again, much like we were sharing earlier, once somebody says, this is what's going on, then everybody else can go, well, partly I was feeling that too. And I'm feeling, this as well. And you basically open it up. And I think that's probably the great thing about our forum is, there a lot came out, but there was a lot of consistency and a lot that was related to getting away from good form practices. We have some struggles, getting people to do great presentations. And I know we were kind of here to talk a little bit about presentations, and I think that one of my challenges as moderator, pretty much every moderator term I've had, is getting forum mates to step up and want to do great presentations, right? Or do presentations, not even great, just do a presentation. And that was one of the feedback we got is that, hey, sometimes I feel like I'm doing a presentation just to fill the ball, just to fill the time. Yeah. And there were a few different points. Like one is, hey, if I've got a difficult decision to make, I'm probably going to make it before my next forum meeting. Fair enough. But that's where I pushed back on the forum and said, look, there's good things that are going on in your life. Let's hear about those. There's things that you're probably planning for your business or your family that's not happening this month or even this year. Let's hear about those. And let's start working as a forum to learn more about each other and to continue to, this goes back to how do we stay together, to continue to grow together and understand each other and then be able to relate when I come in and I've still got challenges with a 22-year-old son. I mean, it's a struggle and those struggles don't just magically go away. You got to, sometimes they're what's that called? Chronic. And you just keep working through them. And that's how I think our forum has done a great job overall. I mean, 16 years with the original 6 of the original 8.
So what's a good trigger that you can do with with your forum to kind of prevent and get to a point where you're texting another forum mate that you're ready to roll? What's another strategy a forum could take away from listening to this that they could insert? Is it doing clearing rounds every time? Is that would you say that is what do you think is that the main tool that you could use?
I think it would be healthy. It would be like, I think too often we skip leg day. We're just like,
I know Mose doesn't skip leg day.
No, he does not. He never skips leg day.
He probably skips, I don't know, what do you skip?
I try and skip donuts. I try and skip donuts. If I don't eat it, I don't have to burn it off later. And I love donuts. Did I ever tell you about the time I did the 4 Pop-Tart workout?
No,
I'll tell you about the 4 Pop-Tart workout later. But what I wanted to say to what Eric was just saying is, when he said he got to the point where he dropped that text message on me that says, I'm thinking about leaving forum. I can think of at least twice distinctly, once on a mini retreat at the lake. And once when Eric presented about transitioning, I don't share about the business.
Yes,
but some transitioning of the business from him being owner to engaging the employees as a them taking some ownership in it for his future planning, right? Mm-hmm. And I remember distinctly, and I don't remember which presented at the lake, but at the end of both of those, the one at the lake and the one in a regular forum meeting, I look across the table. I could just see it in his eyes. He's like, well, that sucked.
Mm-hmm.
You could just read his body language. It was like, you even looked at the one at the forum meeting. You even looked like you were just ready to get up and walk out the room.
I don't think I even realized how bad it was. It really pissed me off.
Yeah.
Part of the problem is that I got some advice, or yes. I got some things that were told to me that felt like advice to me.
Most of you did get some advice.
Yeah.
Frankly.
Yes.
And once again, getting away from forum rules. But so I guess back to my point is I picked up on that. We
haven't talked about it before.
No, but we innately pick up on how people are feeling. And I could tell he wasn't okay. And did I say anything? Did I call him afterwards? I just let it go and I didn't lean in. I mean, that's what I say. I guess it was an opportunity to lean into it and say, hey, what's going on? I can see you're not comfortable.
Yeah. And we in that sometimes, and why is it that we don't step into the danger zone when we should be stepping into the danger zone?
I think we've been married to forum for so long that there's probably some level of complacency there, and we begin to get away from the rules. And
but that shows up in your life too, because if you allow that to happen in a forum experience, you're allowing it to happen in the business too. You're also stepping over that spilled drink, and you're not cleaning it up, and next thing you know, you created this almost like acceptance of it's okay. Yeah, it's okay. We'll let this slide,
Yeah.
Well, and that's just it. That just starts to accumulate, right? It just becomes how we do it here, right? It becomes part of your culture to let things slide.
Right.
And, I can, once again, whether it was with my father or some employees, you can sometimes tell when you've rubbed somebody wrong. You can just feel it. The air doesn't feel the same as you're walking past them in the office. And I've, once again, like to think I've gotten better about the fact that I'll go and say, is this a good time to talk about I'm feeling, some tension or whatever?
So let me ask you this: Did you solve the forum? So the real question is, I'm going to sit here and analyze this just for a minute and ask yourselves:
Did we solve it?
Did you guys solve it? Are you guys on the right path? Or you have a better plan? Or how do you feel about how you kind of had this tough conversation, but did you truly solve it?
Do you know in your head what you're going to say? Because I don't want to influence what you're about to say.
Should we write it down?
I'm not. I'm good. I can do it without.
You want to do a secret ballot?
I don't know if we need to take it that seriously, but I don't think we've solved it, but I think we've got the tools in place to do that. So we've already been assigned an exercise that we're going to do, and I think that will get us. It's not me.
Well, and I hope this is fair to do. And the reason I want to go through this exercise just for a second to think about is if we are going to spend 3 hours a month so let's say we're going to spend 40 hours a year.
Yeah. Or plus. Yeah.
Right. A whole week, a work week, away from our team or family.
Yep.
Like our forum experience should be damn good.
Yeah.
We should get value at the end of the forum experience. And if we are not getting value, we should be saying something. And I have sat in a forum experience and accepted a week experience and not said anything. And I think other people are also listening. And I think what the whole purpose of the decision is making a decision to say, I don't like this sucky experience and I don't need to have the sucky experience. I need to say this experience sucked.
And you're probably not the only one.
And you're probably not the only one.
There's almost always somebody else in the room feeling the same way. Yeah.
And just the discussion, putting the ugly on the table and putting light on the issue sanitizes everything. It allows everyone to see it, name it, talk about it, and solve it.
So, Mose, do you think we are headed there or have?
Well, I think the question is, have we solved it?
Yeah.
And the answer is unequivocally no.
Yeah.
No, we have work to do. And as the moderator, I took copious notes along with Mom, Marty. We've got notes and we've compared notes, and I do have my last moderator session coming up, and going to bring some of those thoughts to form about how do we get better presentations that bring more value, that utilize our time, and maybe how do we adapt our meetings so that every minute is of value. Because even I think of one of the feedbacks that we got is, and this goes back to not sharing what's really important in your update, is people are starting to glaze over. They're like, okay, yeah,
mailing it in,
whether it's the person giving the update or the people listening to it. And if you stop listening, then where you definitely stop connecting as a forum.
I had a forum experience where a member announced that he was leaving at a forum meeting. And I've also had forum members, bail out with text, which is ugly. Why do you do that?
Bails with it.
I know. But anyway, but back to that, we were sitting in a forum experience, and I really respected him. I did not want him to leave the forum because he had a business that was big as mine was, and he had all these employee challenges. And I secretly liked having to hear his issues because I felt a kinship with those. And as soon as he announced he was leaving, my heart was like, I don't want to be in this forum because this is what I got out of forum is like, I wanted a compadre to be whining about how hard it is to manage people. And I was learning, that's the value. I was at the point in time, it was all about the business for me. It's more than that now. I'm more realizing it's more about my life experience, not the business. Mm-hmm. But in that experience, I said a statement. I think I killed the forum because I said, well, because other people were talking about leaving. And so we were having this breakup conversation. And the question was, well, let me ask you, if we stay together in 12 months, would we have learned more, or would we learn more if we were with other people? And we all were like, we would learn with other people. And then we broke up. I shouldn't have said that. I don't know. But
how to blow up a forum with one sentence.
One sentence. I actually quite regret it because we trusted each other, but I feel like we had not gone deep enough. And had we gone deeper, maybe we could have stayed together. But there's not a reason to always hold on to it either. No. Sometimes it is okay to let go and start anew.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's very important. I mean, forum is not marriage, and sometimes even marriages need to be ended, right? Mm-hmm. Especially if there's, cultural, not just values differences.
Right.
I think that's the big driver. But, once again, can you keep it fresh? Yeah. Can you bring new experiences? Absolutely. And can you have these individuals that you've grown to know and trust and bring them something that's challenging to you at any time, really? I mean, and knowing that they're going to be there for you. And once again, I think I could count on the fact that if our forum were to, and we're not going to blow up, that I could call on any one of these guys and know that I will get supported. Right.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's extended. It is extended way beyond forum and these days.
Mose, thank you. Thank you for joining us today.
We're done? No.
Yes.
No, I was just getting warmed up.
All good things must come to an end, right, Eric?
Oh, that's right, man. There's only so much tape in the reel.
There's only so much tape in the reel. I thought we had these new digital cameras.
That's fancy stuff. That's
fancy stuff.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I want to come back again. This was fun. Maybe I could be like a guest co-interviewer.
Yes, absolutely.
That would be great. And Eric's not able to make it.
Yeah, we can make. I could let you take this seat. I trust you enough. I've known you long enough.
It would be fun.
A little warning out to the EO community: if you get an invite to one of Mose's workouts, be prepared to be very sore and be very tired and be very sweaty.
Very sweaty. Yes,
but
very sweaty.
But be rewarded in the fact that you finished the workout with Mose, because he is a tough one to work out with, a good one.
I'm a good one to work out with. I've learned over 17 years of doing CrossFit in my backyard how not to get hurt. So I've got you covered.
Awesome. Thank you for watching. That concludes The Decision. If you are interested in learning more about Nashville Entrepreneur Organization, you can visit us at
eonashville.com. eonashville.com. That's the place.
And eonashville.com/podcast, where you can see previous podcasts with fellow entrepreneurs getting it done, making it happen, and live to tell a tale about it after a tough decision was made. Thank you for watching, and have a fantastic rest of the week.
Thanks for listening to the Decision Podcast by Nashville EO. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.